We did a group FaceTime and basically said my goodbyes over FaceTime to my entire family. I've never seen my dad cry until that day. It was traumatic. I was like, okay, wow, I'm 23. I'm going to die. I haven't been able to have kids. I haven't been married. I haven't finished school. I have all of these things are going through my head of like, wow, I'm not going to be able to do any of this.
You're listening to This Is What It Feels Like, where we tell stories that deserve to be heard directly from those who have lived them. I'm Tara Lopez. We put a call out earlier this year asking listeners what topics they wanted us to look into. We got a lot of responses, but one topic that kept coming up was the feeling of being gaslit or not feeling believed by your doctor. A lot of listeners sent us voice memos of their own experiences, feeling dismissed, ignored, and essentially minimized by their doctors.
And you can literally tell the doctors, I feel like I'm dying. I know that you could help me, and I feel very rational. And they're like, it's a psychiatric thing.
She told me that nothing was wrong with me and that I implied that I had a mental health condition and was exhibiting attention-seeking behavior.
And I actually had the ER doctor tell me I was just a hypochondriac. You are just having an anxiety attack, so you need to calm down. That's why your blood pressure is low and your heart rate's high.
For this episode, we're looking at how it feels to be gaslit by your doctor. The expression gaslit or gaslighting dates all the way back to 1944 from a film actually called Gaslight. The word essentially means to manipulate someone into questioning their perception of reality. It could look like deceiving someone and making them think that what they have seen, heard, or felt never actually happened. Now, you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? Just go find another doctor. But studies show time and time again that medical gaslighting exists across all areas of medicine. And it should be to no surprise that this issue disproportionately impacts women. According to an October 2022 She Media survey, 72% of women say that they have experienced medical gaslighting. 71% of women were told by their doctors that their symptoms were made up. And these numbers have real consequences. According to Cancer Today, when it comes to cancer care, women are twice as likely as men to report symptoms 5 or more times before they're diagnosed. And Yale Medicine claims that on average, it takes 10 years for women to be diagnosed with endometriosis because doctors don't recognize the condition or know how to treat it. It took nearly 8 years for my partner to finally be diagnosed with endometriosis, and this was after dozens of conversations with her doctors and gynecologists. And related to all of this is the impact medical gaslighting has on communities of color. Studies have shown that people of color, specifically women, and even more so Black women, are less likely to be diagnosed with cancer and heart disease. They're less likely to be offered pain medication, and doctors are more likely to describe Black women as uncooperative. In this episode, you're going to hear from a woman named Dominique. You're also going to hear from listeners who sent in voice memos about their experiences of not feeling heard and believed by their doctors. We'll hear about the struggles that they faced when seeking answers for their unexplained health disorders, how they had to fight back and advocate for themselves, and in the case of Dominique, how it felt to be told that she only had 48 hours left to live. This is what it feels like to be gaslit by your doctor.
I'm Dominique Green. I'm 26 and I live in Sacramento, California.
I met Dominique in her home in Oak Park, the same neighborhood I live in Sacramento. We actually live only about 2 blocks away from one another. Dominique has spent most of her life in Sacramento. When she was 23 years old, she joined the AmeriCorps program. After serving 10 months in Wisconsin, Dominique moved back home and immediately knew that something was wrong.
So I started getting sick pretty much as soon as I got home, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I finally was like, let me go to the doctors after like maybe a week or two of just like feeling kind of like flu-like symptoms. And everybody thought it was COVID because it was 2020. And it was during like major COVID times.
Dominique took dozens of COVID tests over the next 2 weeks and was negative every time. So her doctors weren't really concerned and told her that whatever she had would pass. But her older sister studied infectious diseases at UC Berkeley and suggested that she get tested for Lyme disease since Dominique had just spent time working in the woods.
And they were like, oh, it's not likely. It's not likely. My primary doctor told me that I was probably just taking too much Tylenol and that was causing my symptoms. And yeah, I just continuously got worse from November of 2020 to December of 2020 was basically when I hit my, I could not take care of myself anymore.
And so then you had a doctor tell you that you were taking too much Tylenol. And was his suggestion just to stop taking Tylenol?
Yeah, he said try Zyrtec instead. Yeah. And my symptoms were my fever was 101 plus every day. I had a rash all over my entire body. My hands would go numb, my fingers would go numb, my legs completely would go numb to where I couldn't walk. And this was them telling me this was the Tylenol response. And, it's too much Tylenol, try Zyrtec.
Many listeners sent in voice memos relating to the types of gaslighting Dominique was experiencing. Beyond this, many touched on the mental toll of being gaslit by their doctor.
My whole life, I've been medically gaslit. It made me feel completely helpless. And who do you turn to when the people that are supposed to help you with your health not only don't know anything about what's happening to you, but then tell you that you're crazy as it's happening? It's just maddening.
During this time, my mental health did actually decrease quite a bit because I was essentially being told that I was crazy to the point that I started to wonder if really it possibly was something that was wrong neurologically with me or with my brain.
For 3 months, Dominique had been experiencing extreme symptoms. High fevers, numbness in her hands, fingers, and legs, and rashes all over her body.
It got to a point where I was emailing back and forth with my doctor. Both sides of my family have lupus, and I was emailing my doctors asking for a biopsy to test my kidneys for lupus.
Dominique was told that a biopsy would be overkill, and so instead,
I got an email back saying, we've scheduled you for a COVID test, another one. So I had probably 40 COVID tests. And finally, I got so sick and I had a puppy. My dog was only 7 weeks old at the time. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care of her. My sister was you have to come stay with me. You can't be by yourself. I don't trust you by yourself. And so I went and stayed with her for a few nights and I continuously got worse. My fever got to 104.7. I started hallucinating. I couldn't move anything. My sister had to physically drag, I think I was 24 or 23 at the time, drag my big self to the bathtub and put me in a cold tub so my temperature would calm down. She called my doctor and they advised her, do not bring her in. Just give her Tylenol. It's not that bad. Do not bring her in. She doesn't need to come in.
Hold on. So you had one doctor telling you that you were taking too much Tylenol and then another doctor or the same doctor?
Different doctor. Finally, that night, my sister, she was like, you need to go in. I have a bad feeling how tonight's going to go. And she had my mom come pick me up from her house, take me to the ER. I couldn't talk at all because I was my fever was so high. I just couldn't get anything out. They safety pinned a note on my shirt because they couldn't come in with me during COVID to the ER. Safety pinned a note onto my shirt saying, these are her symptoms. This is how long it's been going on for. Do not send her home until there is a diagnosis.
Like Dominique's situation, a lot of you shared your own stories of how you had to advocate for yourself when it came to getting the care you believed you needed.
I had to say to them, if you don't give me an MRI right now, I'm not leaving this room and I'm going to start screaming.
I had a breakdown and I started screaming in the ER, if you don't test my blood, I'm going to sue you.
Coming up, Dominique and her family finally get some answers. And it's what they expected all along. Dominique and her family had hit their wall, this time refusing to leave the hospital until there was a diagnosis.
The first woman doctor that I had in the ER was the first person to test my blood and say, oh, you have a blood infection. Like, you can't leave. They admitted me that night and I stayed there for a month. Yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the downfall for me. I just kind of got worse and worse. And it was funny because the doctor who admitted me said to my sister, if you would not have brought her in tonight, she would have died tonight. So my sister having that gut feeling was 100% correct. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Thank God your sister took you in.
She saved my life, truly.
So then you spent an entire month in the hospital. How was that experience for you?
It was horrible. First, it being COVID, no visitors allowed. I wasn't allowed to shower. And so they were like, oh, you have to have someone come give you a sponge bath. Well, I requested that all the time. And I think the whole time I was there, I got 2 sponge baths for the whole month I was there. Because I would sit in my own vomit. And I was like, can I get a new gown? And it would take days for them to get me a new gown.
Dominique says that although they were able to diagnose her with a blood infection, they still had no idea what the infection was and what was causing it.
They basically got to a point where they told me I had 48 hours to live. They said, my doctor came in and said, and with the worst bedside manner too, he came in and said, hey, so your platelet count is at 7. It's supposed to be in the 400s, 200s, 400s. And my platelet count was at 7. All right, go ahead and call your family. All right, have a good night. And left me with that. And I just had to sit in a hospital room by myself, processing that I was going to die in 2 days. And I couldn't say goodbye to my family.
I can't even imagine how that felt. How did that feel in that moment? Could you even process what he was actually saying?
I had to have him come back in, and I called my sister because my sister was making the majority of my calls because I was just so drugged up. And so I called my sister and I was like, I need you to talk to this doctor because I don't know if I heard this right. And so he came back in and talked to my sister and said, yeah, it's time. She's only got 2 days. We did a group FaceTime and basically said my goodbyes over FaceTime to my entire family. I've never seen my dad cry until that day. It was traumatic. It was everything, all of my emotions happened at once. I was like, okay, wow, I'm 23. I'm going to die. There's nothing I can do. I haven't been able to have kids. I haven't been married. I haven't finished school. I have all of these things are going through my head of wow, I'm not going to be able to do any of this. I just had to sit alone with it. And it was just fucked me up, mentally. I think probably still to this day did a number on my mental health because I'm just have this underlying fear of wow, life is so precious and could really end so quickly. They could really just say you have 2 days and that's it.
I can't even imagine having to hop on a FaceTime with your family. Yeah. And you're also in a hospital bed, drugged up. They can't be with you because of COVID. Mm-hmm. Wow.
My sister, I guess, and she always tells me this because I guess she was in a Whole Foods aisle, the peanut butter aisle. She says, I never forget this. I was in the peanut butter aisle when I got that call from your doctor, and I just sat in the peanut butter aisle and I fucking cried. It was, all my family too. We're just sitting here trying to find answers. And then to hear that, it's just wow, it's a lot.
During this time, Dominique's labs and blood work have been sent off to Stanford and the University of Pennsylvania in the hopes that specialists there might be able to figure out just what kind of blood infection they were dealing with. A doctor at the University of Pennsylvania would finally come up with a diagnosis.
He said, basically, hey, I think potentially this is what is called thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, which is a very rare blood disorder. There's a 90% death rate in this disorder. And I don't know if she has it, but if she has it, we can give her this medication and it will help her. If she doesn't, she's still going to die. So my sister said, well, why not roll the dice on that? And she did. And it happened to be that. If it weren't for this one doctor that came in and was like, maybe this, I would have been dead in 2 days.
It would end up being TTP. In TTP, blood clots form in small blood vessels throughout the body. The clots can block the flow of blood to organs, preventing organs from working and eventually shutting down completely. According to the National Library of Medicine, prior to the advent of plasma therapy, TTP had a mortality rate of 90%. Now, if caught in time and if given prompt plasma therapy, that mortality rate is far lower in most cases. But in Dominique's case, because her symptoms were continuously ignored, her life was in jeopardy.
I had to get all of my medical information downloaded on a disk drive, and I think it got sent over there. I don't really know what ever happened with all that because it was everything was just out of my control at this point. They got that diagnosis and they found out that this blood disorder is caused by untreated lupus, which is what I had been asking for tests for since December. And I think I have emails from my doctor too. And I'm specifically saying both of my sides of my family have lupus. I would like to test for lupus. And that's when they're like, no, it's not, we don't think it's lupus. These symptoms aren't, similar to it. But then you look back and all of my symptoms are exactly what lupus symptoms are. So it was untreated lupus that caused this blood disorder. And my doctors neglecting my requests for my tests were the reason I almost died.
It's not uncommon for medical professionals to ignore requests, despite a patient's adamance that something is wrong, like in the case of this listener.
I woke up one day with severe hand pain and was completely unable to move my hands. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor told me that there was nothing wrong with my hands, even though I clearly could not move them out of this frozen claw position. And I told them it was incredibly painful. This continued for weeks that turned into months, and I continued to email and call them. I finally begged her if I could see a specialist. She said that she would send me to see a rheumatologist, but she knew that they were going to tell me that nothing was wrong with me. I saw the rheumatologist, and she indicated that she didn't believe anything was wrong with me either, but said that she would run the tests anyway. When I received the rheumatology blood work back, it was off the charts, and I just received a simple one-line email from my doctor saying, "You have rheumatoid arthritis. I'll schedule an appointment to talk about medication options." There was no apology. They couldn't even bother to call and tell me that I indeed did not have a mental health condition, but a progressive autoimmune disease. It's an incredibly isolating experience. It's incredibly lonely. It leaves you feeling very lost because who were you supposed to turn to when the people that are paid and that you pay to help you won't help you?
Dominique had been in the hospital for about 3 weeks when doctors finally discovered that not only did she have TTP, but she also had lupus, the very disorder she had asked to be tested for the first night she went to the ER. It was also during this month-long stay she would be accidentally discharged from the hospital twice.
I think it was right before Valentine's Day that I got released, but I actually got released 2 times before that too, because the first time the staffing made an error and accidentally discharged me with no medication, no discharge papers, no nothing. My sister was like, okay, I guess we'll come get you. And they picked me up from the hospital and they were like, what do you need? What do you take? And I was like, I have no idea. They called me back that night and they were like, hey, we didn't mean to discharge her. So I had to go back to the hospital, which was the biggest blow because in my eyes, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting out. This is so great. But in reality, they messed up and accidentally discharged me. So I had to go back. And then that happened another time.
On top of everything, the 2 accidental discharges, the denying her sponge baths and clean gowns, Dominique endured additional traumas from doctors and nursing staff.
My doctors overdosed me when I was in the hospital too.
One night, Dominique says that during a switch of shifts, she was given Dilaudid and Vicodin. Shortly after, another nurse gave her morphine. This mistake put Dominique into multi-system organ failure. I can't even imagine how that must have felt. Were you lonely? Were you anxious? Were you still afraid that you could possibly die?
I was still afraid. In my head, I got to a point where I felt like, I was like, they don't have the right answer. I don't, they're saying that this is the answer, but now I just don't believe you. I don't believe you at this point. So I had a lot of fear. And even to this day, I still do, of like, is this going to kill me? Like, am I, having another relapse of TTP, and am I going to drop dead in 30 seconds? Because that's how it happens sometimes, because you throw a clot in your brain. And so the fear has stayed with me for the entire time, even before I left the hospital. It's just like just an anxiety. It's definitely increased my anxiety. It trickles down to a lot of my daily activities and everything that I am.
Going back to really having to advocate for yourself and still not being heard, even when you went to the doctor and said, I think this is lupus, I have evidence that it runs in my family, and they still didn't listen to you. In your heart, why do you think they didn't listen to you?
I emailed them and I told them, I feel like you're neglecting my request because I'm a Black woman. I specifically said that, and I got an email back from my doctor. Oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Like, no, that's not the case. Okay, like, let's go ahead and get this scheduled. And I was like, okay, so I had to call that out. But it's like, I think that is why. I think that they hear a Black woman complaining about pain, and that's why it's way more likely for Black women to die during childbirth. Like, they don't believe us. They just don't believe us, or they don't care to hear us.
The CDC reported in 2024 that Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women. The CDC goes on to state that multiple factors contribute to these disparities, such as variation in quality health care, underlying chronic conditions, structural racism, and implicit bias. How has this experience impacted your view on the medical system?
Oh, I'll never trust them. I just know going in, like, every time, it's just always like, okay, I need to, like, make sure I have somebody here with me to advocate for me, to make sure I'm not the only one hearing this, because they're going to, like, if they twist my words, if they say they never said that, you're always preparing for, like, having to defend yourself.
So you think about these things before you go into a doctor's office. You think about, 1, I need to have an additional person with me, and I need to advocate for myself. Like, you have to mentally prepare yourself.
Right. Yeah. Always. And I feel like I'm going to be that way forever. I don't think that's ever going to go away. I've had too close of a call to death to even play that game anymore. So it's not anything I'm willing to. Yeah. That's just one thing I'm going to have to deal with forever.
How is your health now?
So I take medication every day, and I will for the rest of my life. My energy level is a lot lower. I get blood work done every 3 months, and I will do that for the rest of my life. And I have doctor's appointments every 3 months with my doctors. I have a rheumatologist and oncologist, and they monitor my blood work and my urine tests every 3 months. And I have to do that for the rest of my life.
Have you accepted that?
It's so obnoxious to have doctor's appointments all the time. I am a full-time student. I'm a full-time caregiver. I have a job. I don't have that kind of time. It's impacting me for the rest of my life because of how they just chose to not hear me. And it's hard.
Was there ever a feeling of resentment just towards, like, seeing those around you not have to do this?
Yeah, 100%. And it's still to this day, it's like, when I came out of the hospital at 23 years old, I couldn't even shower myself. I had to have my sister and my mom help me shower. I had to have my mom come over and braid my hair up so I didn't have to take care of my hair, because I couldn't even, like, use my hands for a while. And it took away a lot of my independence. It took away a lot of my independence.
What changes do you think need to happen specifically for the medical system or doctors to believe women, and in particular Black women?
It starts not even with the doctors. It starts with the way that Black communities are, the opportunities Black people have. If you are able to give Black people the same opportunities that white people are getting, and having the privileges to get into these really nice schools and go to medical school and do all these things, we would have way more Black doctors. And it's like, if I have a a white doctor trying to tell me as a Black woman what I'm experiencing. Like, I don't care what you have to say because you don't get it. I want a Black woman doctor. Like, I want a Black doctor because I am more likely to be heard and understood.
Dominique is 26 now and tells me that she takes her health day by day, making sure she stays on top of her upcoming doctor visits and blood work. She's engaged, and last year, they had a baby named Shay.
I'm so thankful that I got to live to have this moment. I've always wanted to be a mom. He is truly the greatest thing that happened to me. My oncologist and my rheumatologist were scared shitless when I told them I was pregnant, because they told me, like, you cannot get pregnant. Like, this needs to be planned. This needs to be like, your health is very risky to have a pregnancy. My pregnancy was considered high risk. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to have an abortion. I didn't know if I was going to keep it, because part of me was like, I'm very scared to be pregnant because, like, I know that the risks could be really bad. But I've also always wanted to be a mom, and I want to see with my doctors, like, if I'm able to carry this pregnancy.
Dominique had an OBGYN, a high-risk OBGYN, and a nurse practitioner. It was a stressful pregnancy, not knowing if she would have a relapse of TTP or if her baby would also have TTP. She had to be induced at 37 weeks because of the extreme high risk. Thankfully, they both made it through safely. How has this experience shaped how you view life now?
I'll explain it as, like, okay, my relationship with my dad has always been a little funky. Not that he was not a bad dad. Like, my dad loved me my whole life. We just had a funky relationship, like, as it goes for a lot of people. It put into perspective to me that, like, wow, this shit we fight about is just not worth it. I would way rather have a relationship with my dad and put the things that have happened to me in the past aside and put our dumb drama aside, because I don't want to miss out on any of these opportunities. Like, I was so happy to find out I was having a baby because I was like, I have always wanted to do this. Life is, like, so much more precious to me. And I would say with the TTP, but also with being a mom, like, it's not to say that I ever felt like any sort of way, but I just felt before all of this happened, I was like, okay, like, you know, if I die, I die. Like, that's kind of where I was at. But I truly have, like, a fear of death now. It's made me, like, you know, mend these relationships. It's made me, like, work to, like, get in contact with my grandparents every day. Like, it's made me want to just be with everyone all the time because it's just so precious to me. Like, and it can just be taken from you so quickly. It's definitely changed my view on life for sure.
I want to thank Dominique for sharing her powerful story with us. And I want to thank those that sent in voice memos. In this episode, you heard from Nikki, Maggie, Lisa, and Elizabeth. As you know, this podcast is a platform for the community, and I want you, the listener, to have a voice and to be empowered to share your own story or to let us know what stories you want to hear. So please feel free to email us at tiwiflpod@gmail.com. On the next episode of This Is What It Feels Like.
Something that folks get wrong about JWs is that they're harmless. You might know some really kind, sweet people who happen to be witnesses. We all know them. But you know as well as I do that if Bethel told them to murder somebody, they would.
We speak to individuals who grew up in the Jehovah's Witness faith and who later decided to leave, what that looked like for them, the family, friendships, and communities they lost, and how leaving the Jehovah's Witness organization still impacts their lives today. Thanks for listening to This Is What It Feels Like. This Is What It Feels Like is an independent production, hosted and produced by me, Tara Lopez. Editing by Kelsey Hasty. Sound design, mixing, and mastering by Wes Jones. Original theme song and music produced by Wes Jones. Our designs were created by Justin Hunt Sloan. Photography by Jeffrey Latour. The first season of This Is What It Feels Like was created in collaboration with Cap Radio and is now independently produced. Special thanks to SE Electronics for sponsoring the show. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We've got links to resources in our show notes. For photos of our guests, behind-the-scenes footage, and more, follow us on Instagram at TIWIFL Project or visit us at www.feelslikepod.com, where you can continue the conversation long after the podcast ends.